Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Is in the chat. If you are in the chat, you can get yourself some questions answered a little bit later on. Additionally, if you want all of the rankings that we're using for today's show, hit the description. You can find all of Ian's rankings down there right now. Thank you for sending the Tyreek Hill adjustment to us, Ian, this morning.
Yeah, man. You know, guys, unfortunately only got one working neat these days. Thought we'd go ahead and just get ahead of that. So, yeah, all the Malik Washington boys. Let's do it.
Is he a must pick up, Jake, in your opinion?
I would say not must, but I would go for him over everybody asking about Whisper, Kakina, and everything like that. If you're looking for the potential to replace Tyreek Hill, a very similar style. And sure, yeah, we could be looking at a wide receiver 3, which I guess if he's just a wide receiver 3 would make him a must pick up. But of course, this could go sideways because Darren Waller is back to doing things. I don't know, he might retire tomorrow. He got 2 touchdowns, so he's done. But I mean, between the fact that it could just be a replacement by committee, as in it's Waller, Washington, and Westbrook-Akina. But you have to take the chance on the fact that he even is 80% of Tyreek Hill, that you have to. So yeah, I guess the end answer is he's a must pick up.
I don't know if I just really want to be tied to that offense, unless it's like A-Chain. I guess maybe Waller at this point, that if you're trying to, if you're hurting a tight end in. But I don't think like Malik Washington's moving. If you like, maybe in a deeper league, obviously. But if you're playing in like a 12-team league and Malik Washington's your wide receiver 3, your team probably sucks.
I do think in general, again, if you have a doubt between RB or wide receiver on the waiver wire, just go ahead and take the RB. But I do think, rest of season outlook, he's similar to the guys we're looking at in New York. But yeah, I don't think we're seeing, a Puka Nacua or Juwan Jennings on the waiver wire this year.
Yeah, that's probably true. All right, let's jump into the Week 5 running back rankings as provided by Ian Hartitz. Again, you can find the link to his rankings. You can find it down in the description. You can also find it at fantasylife.com if you want to check that out. We got McCaffrey at numero uno, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook, Devin Achane. That's the top 5. Saquon Barkley, Bucky Irving, Derrick Henry, Omarion Hampton, Ashton Genty, Javonte Williams, Cam Scatteraboo, Kyron Williams, Travis Etienne, Quinshawn Judkins, Trey Benson, Breece Hall. Is that the line right there, that Benson, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Chuba Hubbard, or you good up until Chuba Hubbard?
I was looking at it about Breece Hall. Jets got the Cowboys this week. Obviously, that's one of the best matchups we could ever ask for. Cowboys #1 in total offense, number 32 in total defense. Very much the 2025 version of last year's Cincinnati Bengals. So loving that. With Chuba, it's just a situation where this Panthers offense has been so bad, man, that it's tough to be overly confident about the guy. That said, next week, they're actually looking at a winnable matchup themselves against the Miami Dolphins. Two of probably, I think we could agree, the worst teams in the NFL. So it would be right around there. Kamara even going up against the Giants is a reasonable enough one as well. Honestly, we could even go a little bit further. David Montgomery, RB21 this week, just set up to smash as a massive favorite against the Bengals. That would be about where I draw a line more so at Chase Brown.
Where would you go with this, Jake? Because Kamara is a weird one because he's not being utilized in the passing game like you'd expect.
Yeah. No, so I guess I would mix up his rankings a little bit. I mean, that's what we're here doing. Comfort. It's not a big one, though, because I would kind of cut the line at Breece Hall, but then I would include actually, so 18 for me would be, I know it's a bad matchup, but I would put Jordan Mason's volume at 18 and then cut the line there and then have Kamara, Hubbard, Walker, and those. You can, as Ian did, you can make the argument for Montgomery. You can make the argument for Kenneth Walker, but if we're talking about pure trust, I would include Mason. I know that Xavier Scott got the touchdown, but I'm not too worried about that. Similar to the situation with DeMarcado for the Cardinals. I don't think DeMarcado is coming for more work at any stretch of the imagination. So that'd be the only difference. I'm with you in the fact that I don't know that we can call Kamara full trust. Kellen Moore's killing him. He's ruining him. Like we saw Kellen Moore in the past, what he did to Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott and all these others getting lesser reception yards in their years outside of having Kellen Moore. And now we're getting the Kendra Millers getting a third to 40% of the touches. And it's not that I don't like Kamara. It's just Kellen Moore's ruining him at this point.
Ian, Do you know when is Tajay Spears going to come back? Like, I know he's eligible to come back this week. Do you think he will?
He's got his practice window opening this week, so we'll see what happens. It sounds like a possibility. You know, at the same time, we've been doing this every single week, Pat, and I don't think you said a nice thing about Tony Pollard once. So
should I?
That's certainly not going to help Pollard. No, I don't think so, and you've been kind of proven right on that, so no hate or anything. But I will say with Spears, I mean, last year down the stretch, again, one of the crazier stats I was able to find this offseason was that Spears was the RB5 in total PPR points during the fantasy playoffs, and that was only with Pollard missing one game. So, again, not exactly expecting to fire up Spears, you know, as someone that we're exactly leaning on, but they do throw the running back more so when he is out there. So, you know, it has been just a horrific start for the Titans. That said, 3 of these first 4 games have been awfully difficult matchups. I'm hopeful that these next 2 weeks, I think they got the Cardinals and the Raiders. Maybe we can start to see some semblance of upside, but yeah, I would say Spears again within the next week or 2, and certainly not going to make it any more easy to start Pollard.
Jake, with Derrick Henry, Ian has him at number 8. I came on when we did our hot take show that I said that Chuba Hubbard would outscore Derrick Henry this year. So far, so good. He has him by like 6 points or something like that. But Derrick Henry going up against the Titans with potentially no Lamar doesn't sound like a good recipe.
I'm not too concerned about it. I actually had him in the worry report for the waivers this week. I gave him 2 out of 5. Really, if you look at it, I looked through a lot of his numbers and the production so far. The only thing that's kind of off from his career is he's getting stuffed more than ever before. Basically, if you go all the way back to when he was splitting touches with the Titans back in the day. But he's actually at a career best of runs going for 10-plus yards, percentage-wise, of his carries. And a lot of the numbers are right in line. The only problem is just the touches have been fewer than normal. And so, of course, without the touchdowns or the touches, you don't get as many touchdowns. But I'm with you in the one thing. I did admit that if there is no Lamar Jackson week 5, it's not as appealing. I still think he'll be fine. Like, if you want to knock Derrick Henry behind Javonte Williams or Scadaboo or Kyron or whatever, but I mean, how far are you going to go? And I think that's the biggest thing. So maybe 1 week of more frustration, but I see it more as I actually got asked over the article at The Athletic, who's my favorite buy low right now at every position. Derrick Henry's my favorite buy low running back by far.
Is that because the Ravens schedule opens up after the next few weeks?
Just all of it. That's part of it. It has to do with the fact that people are worried, as you brought up, that's not the best spot to not have Lamar Jackson this week. It's because he's been off to a slow start by Derrick Henry standards. So, yeah, it's all involved. Is that if you can get Derrick Henry for fringe RB1 cost, you smash that trade every single time. That's the problem. Like, nobody's treating him as the top 5, top 6 running backs as he has been, especially you.
Do you worry, Ian?
I mean, it's not ideal, but at the same time, like, if we are worried about Father Time finally catching up to the guy, we haven't seen it in terms of his efficiency. I mean, 5.8 yards per pop. It's just been 3 weeks since we've seen the dude have more than 12 carries in a game. So I don't think we're going to see the Ravens playing teams like the Lions and the Chiefs every week who can hang 30-plus points on them. That said, that defense is so banged up right now that maybe we do need to slightly adjust expectations. But I'm with Jake. Again, if you want to move him down to RB11 or RB12, like, okay, fine, you're still starting him in every single fantasy lineup that you have the chance to. I do like the buy low call. That said, you know, kudos to Justice Hill. Certainly had himself a big day out there. He is very capable as a pass catcher. So I just hope Lamar is okay, guys. Look, I am not going to put the conspiracy hat on and say, oh, Lamar quit on his team or anything like that. But it is weird to me on Monday how we get specific, like, okay, 3 to 4 weeks for all these other injured Ravens. But the most important one, the most famous guys in the entire NFL, we get Harbaugh saying, like, yeah, I know Lamar, if he could have been out there, he would have been out there. So we'll see. Like, there is something weird going on there.
I think a lot of it had to do is he probably tweaked his hamstring at one point. We'll see if he ends up on the injury report by Friday, or if he's just practicing like on a limited basis, then he's good to go, which I think is in the range of outcomes here. Or he can miss 4 weeks, like we see with a lot of these guys with hamstring injuries. But once they fell behind in that game and something got tweaked, he was just like, nah, not worth it.
I kind of lean more with that too, especially because you didn't see him getting treatment on the sideline. Like, you just saw him, and of course the camera zoomed in, and we're like, oh, we get the old Lamar Jackson from 4 years ago pouting on the sideline. Like, I mean, he was clearly frustrated. I'm kind of with, Ian more on this one. It's like, maybe he's out 1 week, but it didn't seem like something that they were that scared about.
Question about pickups for you. What percentage of your fab, Ian, would you blow on Woody Marks right now?
Yeah, if he's not on your bench already, that's unfortunate. But I think if you are in one of these deeper, skank sort of level leagues where guys like Woody Marks are not out there on the waiver wire, 70, 80%, man. Look, this is almost, I would feel like the best thing since a Trey Benson type has been out there, but we couldn't pick up Trey Benson or Cam Scatterboo. Woody Marks, I believe, still only rostered in around 30% of Yahoo leagues. So again, you guys know your leagues better than us. If it is an 8 or 10 man, then maybe you don't go as crazy. But hey, Jake, just narrowly missed my top 24 this week. And honestly, if we see one more week just to kind of solidify what we saw in week 4, Woody Marks is going to be breaking down that top 20 door.
He doesn't get Tennessee every week. I read the schedule.
No, but he does look like he's going to be getting the 60-40 of the 60 of the 60-40 split going forward, and that's what we're excited about. Like, Nick Chubb's not going to completely go away. That's why if like Benson and Marks and some of these others were all out there this week, like he would, I'd still take Benson just because of that. But he's in the conversation. It's also, he's still got the offensive line, and the offense is going to limit it in some weeks, but it's still Woody Marks with the upside that, I drew the comparison talent-wise to Tajay Spears, like that explosive runner, very dangerous in the passing game, as we've seen. Like, he already had the passing game value before this week, even changed things over. So just imagine Tajay Spears as the lead running back that we were just talking about with the Titans. Tajay Spears on any team as the lead, getting 60% of the work, would be an RB2, and that's what we have to think about when it comes to Woody Marks. Again, the offense will hurt him a little bit, but I'm with Ian. You're probably like, if you need running back help, 70, 80%. If you're in a league where, like, heck, you lost running backs, you lost somebody, and now you're down to picking up scraps, is like trying to figure out, should I start Kareem Hunt as my RB2? And you have $0 bids, I'd blow the whole fab. That's like how far you would have to go.
I don't.
Mixon update too, Pat. Which is really good. Again, sounds like he's going to be out for the season. Basically, Ryan saying there's, he doesn't know when he's going to be back, and then Aaron Wilson followed up and said, for his sources, looking like it's going to be a long time, if not for the whole year.
Oh, yeah. We also got, Ian, to add to that, I don't know if everybody saw it. It was next update mid-October. Sure, thanks.
That's what they do at PGA tournaments when there's like a lightning storm. They're like, next update on the weather 45 minutes from now. Then we'll let you know what we might be thinking at this point. The next one I want to go to here, there's more questions. I like some of these questions because there's so many bye weeks with high-end running backs. Jacobs is gone, Bijan is gone, even like the Jalen Warren, if he was still out, Kenneth Gainwell is going to be out this week for bye week purposes. So would you keep, there's a lot of Bill Krosky merits stuff here. Like, would you keep him or would you keep Chris Rodriguez in the Commanders' backfield? I would go with Bill there. I just think the upside is higher for him than it is for Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, but like, you might be able to move on from both, honestly. But yes, it would still be him. This goes back to, I brought up the report for Ben Standig before the season even started, and he was the one that said, don't expect him to be the clear lead, and probably not until the second half of the season, if by then, because the team wants him to stay healthy. They realize the talent, but this is somebody who's played one game since 2023. He hit that on the head. He called this one happening. So I think that's the true factor here, is that they don't want to run Krosky Merritt into the ground or even give him bell cow work or even close to it, because they have a committee that's working to a degree right now. So maybe second half of the season, and to your point, Pat, that's why, because you hold on to him. But I tell you what, if you could drop Krosky Merritt for Woody Marks, I mean, you have to, no question, do that. And I think there's some other options where you might be able to make the choice if you need wide receiver help more and he's your running back 5. Like, I don't want to, but like, you just might need help elsewhere.
Bill's been really good with his opportunities, but the problem is so has Chris Rodriguez and Jerry McNichols. I mean, the Commanders this year, in terms of just RB design rushes, are number 1 in the entire NFL in terms of EPA per play on those. So it's one of those things where, honestly, in Washington, New England, and Kansas City, like, those are the 3 gross 3-headed committees. But as much as we would love to see Pacheco, Henderson, and Bill break out, like, they're really not performing that much better than their teammates. So tough to overly bicker about, again, the real life decision making there. So I'm with Jake, definitely Woody Marks over Bill. Not a mustache. I would like to try to keep him if possible. I would just say, if at all possible, guys, if you have that second tight end, second quarterback, second DST, and you're not filling a bye, those are the guys I want to get rid of before someone like Bill.
I have a second.
Let me ask you a question, Pat, and Ian too. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, I would drop if somebody like Blake Corum was out there, because if something happens to Kyron, I have a top 15 running back. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, I'm just sitting there. Again, only if you're like your RB5, but you're just sitting there like, it's never going to change. It might change late into the season, but if like what we're watching right now with Benson and all these other running backs, if I can get a lottery ticket at a top 15 running back, I'd rather stash that right now.
Yeah, and I think that Benson's on a different level than a lot of the guys that we mentioned, even someone like Woody Marks, because we know that the job is his in a full-time role. I know DeMercado got worked in, but they were getting absolutely worked in that game. A lot like Xavier Scott in the Ireland game. That's Jordan Mason's job unless they fall behind by like 2 touchdowns, and they're going to bring him on the field for 2-minute drills and to pass the ball the entire time. If you don't think that Minnesota is going to get routinely blown out, you're just not going to see a lot of Scott while Aaron Jones is out. You're going to see more Jordan Mason. It's not going to be like a 90-10 split, but it's not going to be as close as we saw in week number 4. I just think that, yeah, so basically what you're saying is, and I'll throw it to Ian on this one too, do you agree with Jake that you would rather have one of the high-end handcuffs who you know could step into that job than Bill Krosky-Merritt right now? Because we even saw with Chris Rodriguez as the lead back in this offense last year. He didn't really do anything.
If it is as like your RB5 and you're not actively having to start this guy, and yeah, I do think that makes sense, particularly because with Washington, guys, like we're seeing it with Jaden Daniels and Mariota, 2 scrambling dual threat quarterbacks. It really does hurt these running backs. They factor into the equation near the goal line, and a lot of times they're scrambling instead of checking the ball down. So again, maybe a couple more guys don't go down for Washington, but at this point, I'm even wondering, with the Alvin Kamara, trade murmurs, which again, I don't think there's too much behind it in the way of reporting or anything, but it's just looking at it and saying this is a horrendous team, and there are some good squads out there that need running backs. Kansas City and Washington do stand out as the ones that, again, maybe could start looking at an RB trade of sorts, because as much as Washington might like their backfield guys, like they at least planned on having Austin Eckler out there even after making that decision to go ahead and trade away Brian Robinson. I will say, in addition to Blake Corum, who is a great shout out, again, he would be on the cover of every single waiver wire article in the industry if something happened to Kyron Williams. Tyler Algier is another guy where the Falcons are on bye, and I could see people having to cut ties with him. He's already only owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues. Similar sentiment for Corum. And honestly, Algier, and just he's not that far removed from David Montgomery's role. Honestly, we love the Lions a lot more, but you see these games now where the Falcons get up and you look at the box score and Algier winds up with 14, 15 carries. Corum, Algier are nice pickups. Kendre Miller, other than Woody Marks, I think is one of the best running back pickups of the week. Already mentioned the Kamara, just potential for a trade, and that's on top of just obvious handcuff injury upside. And then also very, very deep, but only owned in 1% of leagues. Raheem Mostert actually was active for, I believe, the first time this year. We saw Zamir White be a healthy scratch. Dylan Lobb not even be touched. So Genty, it's a lot of fun, man, but he already was holding his shoulder after one of those plays. That dude runs hard as hell, and I enjoy watching it, but very, very physical, and as we know, not exactly the most injury-proof position out there. So Raheem Mostert, I do think would be the recommended add. God forbid something happens to Genty.
This question just warms my heart, Jake, and it's for you, and it's about wide receivers. We'll get back to the running back rankings in a second. Would you drop Calvin Ridley for Darius Slayton?
So to go way back to the beginning of the show, Malik Washington is actually sandwiched between Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton in my waiver pickups. I would go Wan'Dale, and then Malik, and then Darius Slayton. So I guess we're calling it as today. We're all correct because Cooper Kupp beat him by 5 points as of before this injury happened. If you want to swap for Darius Slayton, I get it. The thing here is that Jackson Dart's a little bit different, and if he doesn't turn to Slayton, just peppers the hell out of Wan'Dale Robinson. He also, once Neighbors left that game, the top 2 target options were Robinson and Theo Johnson, if you need tight end help, by the way. So it could be Slayton. It could be a mismatch. I mean, they ran Jalen Hyatt out there because he's played with Dart in practice, so there's some rapport there. So I have no problem doing it. The problem here is that, you kind of who do you trust more? And I think everybody would say they trust Jackson Dart and the Giants offense more than the Titans, because even if Ayu Manor has taken over the #1 spot, which you can argue that he has for Ridley, and Ridley's been a massive disappointment, the Titans offense still needs to improve even for the #2 to be valuable. So if he doesn't have that job, that being Ridley, and you want to make the swap, I'm not going to hate you for it. I probably still hold on to Ridley barely because they're in a similar bucket for me. But if you want to do it, I'm not going to fault you for it.
Ridley got banged up in that game, Ian, as well.
Yeah, but sorry, you go to Ian. He was already not the first half before he got banged up. He wasn't even out there for 100% of the routes. It happened before he got hurt. He was already not on the field all the time. Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
I feel like Callahan was saying he was just kind of banged up, period, which led to the reduced usage. Again, it's not ideal, but I would still keep Calvin Ridley with this. I just think that, again, we are going to see hopefully some level of improvement from Cam Ward in this offense. I mean, it really is a joke. The only real highlights to speak of are honestly pretty ill-advised throws from Cam Ward back across the field that he's completed so far, but certainly living dangerously. I would just say these first 4 games for the Titans, okay, they've been horrible. We all realize that. They had to face the Broncos in Mile High. They faced the Rams and Jared Verse, one one of the better defenses out there. Faced the Colts as well, certainly a much improved team. And then the Houston Texans last week, where Derek Stingley was out there doing his thing. Will Anderson and company obviously making life hell at the line of scrimmage. So it has been a rough start. But versus those defenses, I don't know that we necessarily should have been expecting a lot more. So over these next 4 weeks, Titans wide receivers have one of the single best matchups in the NFL. Yeah. Cardinals, Raiders, Patriots, who are better with Christian Gonzalez, and then the Colts again. So I would keep Ridley. Again, I know I drafted way too freaking much of him. I'm not thrilled about it either, but in that scenario, at least, give me Ridley.
Well, throw out yours, Mayo. Like, this is what you do all the time. Like, I'm not saying, like, this is, I think, a valid question. If Darius Slayton and Calvin Ridley both have 100 yards and a touchdown in week 5, who are people going to go more nuts for? And I think they would go more nuts for Ridley because of the name.
They would. I mean, you could almost play this one of two ways, though, because if Slayton is going to be pegged as one of the higher, like, better, more available wide receiver pickups this week, I would guess. So people are going to actively be scrambling to the waiver wire to go get him. That if he went off in the week where everyone picked him up, I do think his value would be probably at an all-time high.
All-time high, but I think Ridley would still edge him out if they had the exact same box score.
Yeah, maybe. It's a really weird circumstance with Calvin Ridley because I only say that because anyone who drafted him hates his guts right now. He's been kind of a slacker in terms of scoring fantasy points. And I just don't think that people want to, and you kind of hit on it. No one really wants to be tied to that Tennessee offense right now, that people might see it as a sell high opportunity just to get rid of him, where at least with Dart, there's no neighbors anymore. At least you could sell Slayton in the way of, hey, this is just the beginning of something, not, hey, this game's probably an outlier. Even though it probably would
especially if you have Giants fans in your league.
Which there are probably more of than Titans fans.
Hey, there you go. I need to become a Titans fan. There you go.
There you
go. Moral of the story, it always comes back to Darius Slayton.
We're going to win our Cooper Cup bet, Ian. It's going to happen.
We already said it on a per game. I already beat you.
This was the process. This was the thesis the entire time, Jake. I don't want to hear it.
You knew Malik Neighbors was going to get turf monstered by that stupid MetLife garbage.
Hey, listen, at least there was an out for this. If all of the other receivers on Seattle got hurt, I don't know how much it improves Cooper Kupp.
It's already over, but hey, we're all winners.
All right, we're going to get back to the rest of the running back rankings to help you fill in for Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, maybe some injuries, whatever you need in week number 5, right after this. Johnnie Walker, a brand synonymous with the game of golf for over a century, is bringing bold energy to golf's fiercest stage and ultimate rivalry with the Spirit of the Cup, a fan-first program that celebrates national pride, fandom, and the relentless spirit of competition. The program invites a new generation of fans to experience golf through modern rituals, bold collaborations, and culture-forward experiences. Leading into the tournament weekend, Johnnie Walker will bring the Spirit of the Cup tour to the streets of New York City from Wednesday, September 24th through Sunday, September 28th. As a part of Johnnie Walker's commitment to making golf straight up more fun, the experience is open to the public, offering golf lovers and inspiring golfers to chip their way to glory while sipping signature Johnnie Walker cocktails. Drink responsibly. Welcome back to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 5 Fantasy Football Rankings. Sticking with running backs, you can find the list of Ian's rankings down in the description. You get the link to Jake's rankings, which come out at midnight down there as well. Mine will be sent directly to you if you are a sub to the free Mayo Media newsletter. You can also find mine up for 4for4 on 4for4.com on Wednesday afternoon. So we have Chase Brown at number 22, Jordan Mason at 23, J.K. Dobbins, Woody Marks, who we've already talked about. My man, Tony Pollard at 26. Seems high for him. Travion Henderson at number 27, Ramondre at 28, Pacheco at 29, Bill Krosky-Merritt, the highest of the Commies backfield at number 30, Ollie Gordon, King Tootin, Nick Chubb, Charbonnet, Kareem Hunt, Justice Hill, Braylon Allen, Brian Robinson, Blake Corum, Kendry Miller. It dries up quickly here, Ian. Did you find that when you were making your rankings?
100%, man. An RB26 for Pollard with 4 teams on bye. He is literally the last running back that I have ranked that, again, isn't stuck in a 3-way committee. So I hear you, but at the same time, like at some point, we got to say, okay, the guy who finishes as an RB3 every week should be ranked as an RB3. So, yeah, man, dries up in a hurry. I do like a lot of those, top 24-ish running backs over, I would say, kind of the wide receiver 3 range. Again, closer start-sit decisions. I'm probably going to be taking the running back with a more expected volume more times than not. whatnot. But yeah, man, hope, kind of a bad year for zero RBers so far, especially so far with all these wide receiver injuries.
If you were looking for someone to plug and play this week, Jake, just looking at that like 28 through 45 type ranking in Ian's rankings, where do you think that you would go to?
Wow, that's a huge list.
I know. Well, it's a lot of the same guy is kind of the thing. Like, like if you had Nick Chubb and expected him to be a bell cow, now he's not, and he hasn't been good anyway, even when he was. Like, would you take that over playing Kendry Miller, who might get 8 touches against the Giants?
No, so I was going to say Charbonnet or Hunt and hope for a touchdown for both of them because they're getting the goal line work. Actually, Charbonnet almost had 2. And then Kendry Miller would be in that conversation. Rachaad White, I think, is interesting because Bucky Irving is going for this mysterious MRI, which they won't tell us why he's going for an MRI. Like, they just said he's going for an MRI. Like, I don't know how you get away with not telling us what it is. But
maybe he's addicted to MRIs.
That's what he just needs to go get one. Yeah. So I think that's interesting because even if we find out like he's 100%, maybe they just ease in Rachaad White just a little bit more, and then there's more of a split than we had seen. Because if you go back to last year, we've talked about it before. You go back to it, and Cohen didn't really change until way late in the season to treat Bucky Irving as a bell cow. Rachaad White was hanging on for basically most, like 80% of the season as getting that kind of option where we're talking about the Kareem Hunts. So he'd be the other one. And I wouldn't go as far as we brought it up earlier with Ben. So DeMarcado was just 2-minute drill, and it looks like they do want him in the 2-minute drill, which is just weird. But I don't think that's something that you're going to be able to rely on for volume any given week.
I guess it really depends on how you project out these games. I know you did this before Monday Night Football outside of the Tyreek Hill injury when you made these. Would you adjust the RJ Harvey ranking at all after watching him against Cincinnati on Monday night?
Yeah, I'd probably bump him up kind of in that Justice Hill, Zach Charbonnet range. That said, when you do kind of look at some of the underlying stuff going on there, his role didn't really change all that much. J.K. Dobbins hit 100 yards, first time since 2022. Latavius Murray, that was cool. And they just literally pulled him after that. And then I think Harvey ended up having like 7 of his 13 touches basically after that point when he was out of the game. So Harvey looked good out there. I mean, it's good that Tyler Bidet basically is a non-factor now. But again, I think that was probably a little bit more of a high-end outcome there for Harvey going up in Philadelphia next week. I don't think it's exactly going to be a repeat performance, but Harvey would be a little bit higher. Certainly still want to keep him on the bench if at all possible.
I was just looking at this right now. Jake, do you know how many snaps that Darren Waller played on Monday night?
I could find
12.
out.
No, I have it in front of me. 16. 16 of 58.
16? There you go.
He really wasn't out there all that much.
No, but the target share, and especially in the end zone, it's there. We're talking about tight ends. I mean, this goes back to like before. This is also his first game back. So, is he being eased in? Do we see this start to uptick, or is this who he is? Which goes back to the whole tight end discussion. It's just pick your poison at tight end outside the guys we trust, which is like what, 4, 5 guys?
Yeah, if that.
He looked good. Beat Sauce Gardner for a touchdown.
100%.
Yeah, well, so everyone was beating Sauce Gardner for touchdowns. And then was it when H.A.N. tried to run it in, it was like Sauce Gardner one-on-one. He's like, yeah, I don't want to get hurt. You just go into the end zone.
The best corner in the business, according to Cust.
Yeah. What did someone say that we can start calling him HP Sauce because he's for holding penalty because that's all he does. It's almost like the first year in the league, he didn't get called for any penalties. Now he does.
That's that's usually what happens with corners, though. That's why I was laughing because that's usually as they start to deteriorate, they just their play. He was to your point, yeah. The snaps were what they were. He was targeted 40% of the time though while he was on the field.
And they had him on the hands team with great hands on that onside kick.
That is true. He led the team in air yards.
Really?
Who?
Yeah.
Waller?
Yeah. Waller.
Yeah.
Did Tua throw one of his 30-yard Hail Marys to him at one point? I don't remember that.
Yeah, he's 32.8% of the team's air yards. Waddle and Tyreek were almost tied at 29 and 30%.
That's rough. All right, so RJ Harvey would be one who's down in these ranks for me to kind of bump up. I did have a question before we get off of running backs, move to receivers, about the Browns' backfield. Has Judkins just completely established himself? Like, would you trust that? I trust him for on the ground, but Dylon Sampson has been pushed to the side. Do you think it's still Jerome Ford as the primary pass-catching down back, Ian?
in primary pass situations, but they've been willing to feed Judkins again, just a couple, 3 or 5 targets, over these last couple of weeks, more so on early downs, design screens, and things of that nature. So Judkins is just playing so well, man, that I really am willing to kind of boost him up here a little bit. It's a tough-ish matchup this week, going up against the Vikings. Good overall defense. I could just see shutting down the Browns as a whole, but they have been one of these kind of run funnel defenses where their pass defense is so good that teams just start to run the ball. And to the Browns' credit, they have been good at rushing primarily because Judkins is a freaking beast out there. Number 2 running back in the NFL behind only David Montgomery in terms of yards after contact per carry. So, yeah, man, I got him up there. Where is he? I mean, RB 15 at this point. So the fact that these last 2 weeks, man, Packers and Lions, like those were worst case game scripts against tough defenses that we really were not expecting much from. The fact that he was able to, pound one in from the goal line, still work his way to around 100 total yards. Really impressive stuff from him.
Yeah, I was trying to point at Ian because that was what I was going to bring up. 21 carries in a game they lost 34-10. He was 5th in RB touch percentage in last week in a game that they got destroyed. So yes, I'm with Ian. This is his backfield 100%. Judkins is honestly, he's bell cowian. He's top 5, 6 in touch percentage.
Very quickly, where would you guys elevate Rachaad White to if we see Bucky Irving out?
Right with Breece Hall.
Okay, what if Braylon Allen is out for the Jets? Where would Breece Hall go? Would he just stay around the same?
Maybe a spot or 2 higher for me, but these are Ian's ranks, so of course ask him. But I would move him up a spot or 2. I just think Isaiah Davis would basically take the Braylon Allen, but a lesser degree because he's not as much as the power back as Allen is once they get into the green zone. But so yeah, a spot or 2 for Hall. The bigger movement would be I'd go Hall. Again, I would put Mason 1 spot behind Hall if they were my ranks, but I would go Mason over Rachaad White, but Rachaad White would be in my top 20.
Yeah, the thing with Rachaad White, when we did see that one game last year, it was without White, but again, like Bucky Irving didn't just completely take over the backfield. They got Sean Tucker involved. So I would kind of expect something similar to that, where I don't think it would be this 90% snap workhorse role for Rachaad White, probably something more like 60-40, 70-30. So still someone that would be good, but it's a tough matchup against that Seahawks defense. We saw what they did to Trey Benson and company. They are, I believe, number 1 in terms of EPA per rush allowed to running backs this year. So really tough matchup. And again, just with these O-line injuries still going on with Tampa Bay, man, not a situation I'd be going out of my way for. So he'd settle in probably 1 spot behind David Montgomery, I'd say.
Yeah. Wide receiver rankings for week number 5. These are Ian's rankings. You can follow the list down in the description, and you can find them at fantasylife.com. Smash the like while you're here watching live as well. I see you people who are watching. Smash the like. Help us out. Sub to Mayo Media Network. Anyone who subs can ask a question in the chat. We'll get to them, hopefully. If we don't get to them right now, we'll get to them at the end of the show, but we're trying to work them in as it helps our discussion. Puka is number 1. No shocker. Amon-Ra, you finally bid on Amon-Ra as number 2. He's like one of the few receivers. It's funny because we were talking about like what's his upside in the preseason when you did your rankings, that it's funny that he turned out to be the guy who, outside of Puka, was the safest of them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had that weird offseason knee cleanup thing that obviously people like myself probably bought a little bit more into than we should have. But, just based on last year and seeing, Laporta was banged up and Jameson Williams was starting to come on, you had the OC change. Again, a bunch of factors that I probably considered too much because Amon-Ra is going out there and absolutely balling. I think he's on pace for like 26 touchdowns this year. So certainly a miss for me. Had him ranked wide receiver 10. Probably should have had him ranked like wide receiver 3. Now he's ranked wide receiver 2. What a time to be alive.
So you stop me when when we get to number 6, you might want to stop your circle of trust. But like where the actual circle of trust is here. Puka, Amon-Ra, JSN, Nico, Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
Stop.
Pickens, Worthy, Igbuka, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Zay Flowers, Debo, Sutton, QJ.
Probably about there. I'm not. Oh man, circle of trust for QJ is right on the line. Cortland Sutton, good. Man. I know he had the 1 dud, but yeah, he is just consistently going 80+ yards and a touchdown seemingly every time out there. So that is the point. That's what I was saying earlier, Pat. Like you start getting, especially like my flex rankings, like you get to these even wide receiver 2s, and all of a sudden I still already have 22 or so running backs ranked ahead of these guys.
So there's 3 guys in particular I want to talk about. Maybe we can talk about even more as it pertains to the high-end wide receivers right now, Jake. But Ladd, Chase, Higgins, and A.J. Brown. Let's call it 4 of them. What do we do with these guys?
So Ladd, he was in the concern report too. I gave him a 3. This is one of those situations that I compared to Luther Burden when I was like, you can't have 3 wide receivers in fantasy. It just doesn't work. Have to go all the way back to Steve Breston as the 3rd wide receiver with Kurt Warner back that year. Yeah.
No. Reggie Wayne, Brandon Stokely, and Marvin Harrison. Those guys were good.
Again, I'm talking about 1,000+ yards. It didn't happen. You got to look 1,000+ yards for all 3 wide receivers. And my point being is Anquan Bolden also got hurt that year.
Did DT, Sanders, and Walker not get there?
No, like 1,000 yards
on
each.
That team? I might
Yeah,
be wrong.
they might. One of them might have had 800. I'm just telling you, the 1,000 yards. I brought it up last week, and a lot of times their third option for 900+ yards was a tight end and 2 wide receivers. It doesn't happen. Now the third wide receiver can be wide receiver 3-4 range around. Tyler Boyd did it as wide receiver 44. But that's the point, is somebody takes the back seat, and it's somebody that can be valuable. It's just they're not all 3 inside the top 20. It's happened maybe twice over the history of football, and you're bringing up one of those examples was like Peyton Manning with the Colts was one of the years, Pat, and I think the best case for that one was the third option was a wide receiver 28, somewhere around there. All that saying is Ladd McConkey's taking the back seat, and it sucks, and I would buy low on Ladd McConkey. Let me make that clear. But he's getting killed because of the touchdowns on top of it. Like 0 touchdowns so far. Very few opportunities because they're all going to Quentin Johnson. When they get into the red zone, they're not even going to Ladd McConkey. So that really just comes down to the concern there. A.J. Brown is A.J. Brown. We just did this last year with A.J. Brown. When you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith with Jalen Hurts, it was already going to be a roller coaster. And then last year it got worse because of Saquon Barkley. And we're seeing the same this year. It's going to be a roller coaster. I would buy the dip on A.J. Brown as well. The one that I'm not, and call it reactionary, and I kept them inside my top 10 last week because I'm like, hey, let me give the 1 week pass. They faced the Broncos, really bad defense. Jamar Chase is out of the top 10. He's out of the circle of trust. I can't do it because Jake Browning did everything he could to throw the ball to him again and again and again and again. And the guy's averaging like 2 yards per target because he's not even getting downfield. He's not completing half of them. And I know that the matchups get better, and I know like Ian can make the argument for it. I would. It's just, and I'm not saying Jamar Chase needs to be wide receiver 23 with Brian Thomas and a similar concern. It's just, you have to acknowledge, like, and this is somebody that argued for Jake Browning. This is not the Jake Browning from 2023. This is not the offensive line. This is not the offense. This is not everything from 2023. I would start Sutton over him at this point. I would put him in the conversation with Sutton and Quentin Johnson and Jalen Waddle. I think he needs to be in that, not necessarily full trust department.
Ooh. It seems like you're still feeling it, though, Ian.
I mean, I adjusted this for the Dolphins. I would knock Chase a little bit down because, good God, that was pathetic. What does Zach Taylor do in Cincinnati? Like, yeah, that was the whole kind of thing I always hung my hat on a little bit, was that Jake Browning actually looked pretty good for those 7 or so games in 2023. But, man, this has just been horrible. So, yeah, the schedule has been tough, but it doesn't exactly ease up here. We got the Lions, the Packers, and the Steelers over the course of these next 3 weeks. So, Lions have some cornerback injuries. We just saw what Dak and company did to the Packers. So, I'm not saying Chase can't break out there, but no, I think what Jake said is fair. If you really wanted to rank Jamar Chase as wide receiver, 15 in these, I would not be calling you crazy. So again, I think you're still going to be starting him either way. That's kind of the thing. People like wanting to bench the guy. I would be very, hard pressed to still see that scenario. It is Jamar Chase after all, but it's horrible. I guess, Pat, the one thing I'm hoping is that just by how bad Browning has looked this year and just completely incapable of running the offense, maybe now they start looking at a Russell Wilson or, God forbid, please, football gods, a Jameis Winston here, because I don't know how they can go through the rest of this year acting like Jake Browning is an actual answer under center.
Ricky Bullets is at number 18. I don't think he's going to play this week. So what would that do to the San Francisco offense in terms of the wide receivers? Like, would you bump up Juwan Jennings any higher than you have him? Because you have him at number 20. Would he just kind of take that spot at 18 and we try to figure out the rest with DeMarcus Robinson and crew?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Jennings is out there too. He suffered a rib injury, got absolutely crunched on a 2-point conversion, already had the ankle and shoulder issue going in. So I would move up with no Pearsall, Jennings for me. And if we knew he was just 100% good to go, no limitations, he'd be up in that top 16 or so conversation. So we did hear from John Lynch, literally, I think like 15 minutes ago, that Ricky Pearsall is considered questionable here for Thursday. So it's certainly not ideal. I hear you. Don't want to, again, go too hard in the paint for guys like DeMarcus Robinson necessarily, not not an easy matchup against Jared Verse and those Rams. But that said, guys, I am old enough to remember, what was it, Richie James, like in that COVID game 5 years ago or something like that, when he just went absolutely nuts. So even in that game with Brock Purdy with the toe injury, Parasol and Jennings in and out of the lineup, like it wasn't pretty. Purdy still threw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So people are going to be getting, other than Christian McCaffrey, they technically have to throw the ball to someone else, at some point in time. So I'll try to figure it out. Kendrick Bourne dropped a lot of passes. I do think Demarcus Robinson would be the next best bet, but man, as I look at these, like I'd still be pretty hard pressed to get him any higher than like the kind of late wide receiver 30 range.
Jake, Ian has Olave at number 19. Do we have to tell Ian that Olave sucks?
He doesn't suck, but he's pure volume based at this point.
He's not. I mean, okay, we can say that he's pure volume based, but he doesn't do anything with this volume. He throws interceptions with it.
He's old Jacoby Myers. Like, he's not going to score a touchdown. He's just going to get 1 billion yards that don't matter much. So, look, I'm not going to fault. The wide receiver is disgusting right now, especially with this bye. Like, we're talking about Brian Thomas and A.J. Brown are 22 and 23 with the frustrations that they're going through. How about the fact that, like, you go back to that 49ers thing, and, yeah, we might also have Mac Jones. Like, Brock Purdy's not even guaranteed for that game because apparently the toe was hurting him. Which is weird because he's like, it wasn't hurting him in the game, which I guess that adrenaline and all that type of stuff. But it was after the fact. But how about, let's talk that CMC's on pace for 1,300 receiving yards.
Love it.
Like, that's so, it's like, do you realize that, like, for everybody out there, he's also on pace for how many, it was like 130 plus receptions. He's on pace to be a top 5 receiver only right now because of how bad they need him.
And he's done nothing on the ground. He's got like 22 fantasy points rushing. It's less than guys like Tyler Algier have this year. He is just again, based on receiving fantasy points, it was before last night, but I don't think it even changed. I think CMC is like the wide receiver 6 on the season. He scored more than like Jackson Smith and the Jigba and some of these other guys. I almost want him to chill out. Okay, can we not have this guy on pace for 450 touches? I mean, whatever deal he made with the devil to get all of his other teammates injured, man, I guess. But yeah, CMC, certainly eating.
For some context here, the yardage you said that Olave is piling up on these targets. I mean, he's averaging fewer than 50 yards a game on 43 targets so far this year.
He's got the second most targets in the league. There's 4 buys. We got guys like CD and Tyreek out of the picture for now. He's like wide receiver 27 on the season. So you want to knock him down a few spots, okay. But like once we start getting to Jacoby, whose quarterback can't stop throwing interceptions. We got Marvin Harrison Jr., who actually has the best schedule in the NFL over the next 5 weeks. Please figure it out with Kyler. I mean, this whole range is disgusting. A.J. Brown, is he going to get 2 catchable passes in the game out there? So I hear you. But Spencer Rattler, as gross as it still is, and he's 0-10 as a starter or whatever, 4 of their last 5 games have basically come down to late in the fourth quarter. So the Saints are very, very bad, but they've been like competitively bad, at least in more games than not. Obviously, the exception being that week 3 matchup against the Seahawks. So at home against the Giants secondary this week, I do think if we are going to, somewhat trust Olave, this would be the spot.
See, I would have him ranked like outside the top 45, Jake. I would rather play a guy who might score 0 points in my lineup rather than play him right now.
Well, no, so go back to what you said. It wasn't
I would play Slayton over Olave this week.
If you want to, that's fine. Like, it wasn't racking up the yardage. It was volume. He's top 30 in PPR, which I think, Ian, don't you usually skew towards PPR? So that's where, and that's points per game because he's getting all the receptions and targets, and that PPR volume is helping him. That being said, I understand your point too, Pat. Like, it's a floor play. You're guaranteeing wide receiver 3 in PPR, probably half-point PPR. If you want to shoot for more upside, because of what you just said, is I'd rather risk the 0 and go for the upside. No problem with it. A lot of people don't have that luxury or necessarily need it. Some people might just say, I just want to guarantee points. I can't risk the 0 because I already got Devontae Smith as my wide receiver 2. So I understand your point as well.
This guy's question in the chat is very interesting. Is the number 1 waiver priority, Ian, Woody Marks or Khalil Shakir? Would that depend on what you need on your roster to try to fill out? Or if you just had to pick best player, which one do you think it would be?
I'm still team Woody. Shakir, again, I mean, he is one of the better yak guys in the league. Saw that on that screen, took for a touchdown. But it's just a situation where the Bills, everybody eats. That's awesome for the Bills Mafia. That's awesome for your real life team. They're scoring plenty of points. Keep doing what you're doing. But, I mean, look, Shakir and Keon Coleman have largely made the most out of their targets this year. The problem is Josh Allen's throwing the football, 20, 25 times a game, seemingly more weeks than not. So this week, who we got the Bills playing? Like at home against the Patriots, maybe Drake May and company can keep it competitive, but I don't know, guys. I mean, James Cook looking like one of the best running backs in football. Josh is obviously running plenty in his own right. And we get these really weird just kind of games where the Bills start rotating a bunch of guys in at wide receiver, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel getting involved as well. So again, as I said earlier, definitely team RB over wide receiver and more, areas than not. If you're in a situation where you had CD and Tyreek and like you're looking at just starting some absolute losers at your wide receiver 1 or 2 spot, then maybe you do go with Shakir in that case. But 9 times out of 10 there, give me Marks.
Couldn't agree more, Pat, and this will make you happy. This is so much that you know how I treat my wide receivers and my bench is I'm shooting for ceiling, similar to your Darius Slayton argument. If I had the choice, I would drop Keon Coleman for Darius Slayton to chase the ceiling because here, I just tweeted this out yesterday. Week 1, Keon Coleman, 21 fantasy points, 11 targets, 8 receptions, 112 yards, and 1 touchdown. The 3 weeks following, 13.6 points, 11 targets, 9 receptions, 91 yards. Surprise, surprise, when they were throwing the ball a billion times a week 1 and he got that kind of fluky touchdown that he hasn't even come close to matching that over the course of 3 games after that because Ian just brought it up. Similar to the Ravens, is not only the fact that they don't pass as much, is they find whoever he wants to find any given week. It's by committee. It's mostly Shakir, and then it might be Kincaid, it might be Coleman, it might be Josh Palmer, although he got hurt and fell off at that point. But it's always just everybody else is involved. So I would move on from Keon Coleman to chase the upside of Darius Slayton to this point. So hopefully that makes you happy.
I did. It does make me very happy. Back to the rankings. 21 is Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, Brian Thomas, Jacoby Myers, Michael Pittman, Marvin Harrison, Jamison Williams, Ladd, T. Higgins at 29, then Devonta Smith at 30. Then we're into Godwin, who looked like okay in his return last week. Shakir, Wendell, Diggs, Keon Coleman, Shaheed, Addison, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, and Cooper Kupp is the top 40. Then we're into A.O. Manor, Troy Franklin, Christian Kirk, Trey Tucker, Hollywood Brown, Josh Downs, Darius Slayton, Malik Washington, Travis Hunter, and Rashad Bateman. Then we're just kind of throwing out flyers after that. Guys that you might need this week. Obviously, Cedric Tillman got hurt. My main man. Pour one out. This is what happens when you get drafted by Cuss in my fantasy league. All I wanted was Cedric Tillman. Cuss stole him from me, knowing that. Now he's dead. Does that mean Isaiah Bond is like a capable streamer here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
As long as Cedric Tillman is out, I would actually put Isaiah Bond even higher. Isaiah Bond, to go back to it, it's unfortunate. Well, I don't want to speak to it. Off the field situation, let me just put that out there. Off the field situation. Isaiah Bond was a top 5 talent in this draft class. Isaiah Bond was the better wide receiver than Matthew Golden coming from Texas. The situation changed things. And if you bring in Judkins to this, if you would have flipped their situations, Isaiah Bond would have been drafted and then sitting around like Judkins was, and Judkins would have been undrafted. Like similar situations, it just had to be with timing of what happened in the NFL draft. Bonds has been more cleared up. Bond is the number 2. He was running as the 3, and he is now the number 2 as somebody that I think has some Jalen Waddle ability. Like, that's the comparison I made. Obviously, that's ceiling for Bond if he becomes Jalen Waddle, but to give you the idea of who he is. So there's a chance that Bond is targeted as much, if not even more than Jerry Jeudy, because that's not working right now. So I would take the chance on Bond over even Travis Hunter at this point. I would put Bond with Malik Washington if they were my ranks.
I mean,
Ian.
Bond legit was looking like the number 1 receiver at Texas before he got injured, even ahead of Matthew Golden his last year. So, yeah, I mean, he honestly was probably going to be a day 2 pick without the off-the-field stuff. So I'm in agreement, had a nice catch down the sideline. Just cannot say enough bad things about Jeudy. I was doing these ranks Monday morning, Pat, and I actually had Cedric Tillman 1 spot ahead of Jeudy. Hurts the fancy say that Tillman's going to be out. I just couldn't even move Jeudy up. I was like, who cares at this point? I mean, it's just such a horrific situation. He's second in the NFL in drops.
Yeah, where would you rate
interceptions?
Where would you raise him to in a points per drops league?
There we go. We can get going with that. But again, guys, my spike line, okay, has your quarterback average a higher passer rating when targeting you over 39.6, which is what they get when they literally just spike the football in the ground. And the only 2 guys that cannot say that, Jerry Jeudy and Travis Hunter. Sheesh.
Travis Hunter had to make such an outrageous catch. I think it was like a 3rd and 19 that Lawrence, I don't know how tall that Lawrence thinks, maybe he needs glasses. I think that when he looks at his receivers, he thinks that they're all the same size as Dikembe Mutombo because he just throws it way over their heads every time.
It's
That's
so
been
bad.
half of the missed targets for Thomas. It's been
I will
flying
say-
over his head.
Jaguars lead the NFL in drops with 13, but where I really can't just get past, with T-Law, the Jaguars have easily given up the least pressure in the league, and their average time to pressure is the highest. So he has all day to throw. As much as it is still weird to me that guys like Parker Washington, Diami Brown, Bretton Strange out here, one of Pat's favorites, actually doing good things. Like, that's the one thing, but just one of the more confusing offenses to try to figure out. And just, again, seeing Hunter and everything he's doing, can we just stick the guy in offense? Because he's not even doing good on defense. I think he's been targeted 8 times. He's given up 7 catches. Like, give me a break, because he's at least flashed with these opportunities, but he's just not getting enough of them.
Yeah, that trade seems asinine in retrospect based on the way that they're using him, Jake.
I mean, James Palmer just did that last week on the Scoop City for The Athletic and said, like, there's a clear winner in that trade so far, and it's not the Jaguars.
I guess what was it? The Texans did this with, who the fuck did they trade up for? It wasn't Will Anderson. He's on the Jets. Why am I blanking on his name?
Yeah,
It
Will
was
Anderson.
Will Anderson.
Yeah, the defensive lineman.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm thinking Will McDonald on the Jets. No, that
when
live
they
stream
doubled
last
down with
night's
Stroud.
like messing with my head. Yeah. And they trade up. And if you think this is like an all-time generational defensive lineman, I think that even if you go back and look at what they gave up for the number 3 pick, it probably still was too much, but at least he's good. It just strikes me as odd that if it's not going to be a quarterback, Ian, it seems hard to trade up with that much capital.
Yeah, I think Bill Parcells had an old quote back in the day where it was like, there's a place for the little guy in football, but it's after and behind the big guys. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, maybe Travis Hunter is still going to be awesome. But, if you are going to be really trying to bet on an outlier, make it one of these just absolute freaks of nature on the line of scrimmage.
Any guy that you would go take an absolute flyer on this week? Is it going to be a revenge week, Jake, for A.D. Mitchell?
Not if Alec Pierce is back.
Revenge on himself?
Yeah. Down in this range, this is a tough, I guess, who did the Dolphins play again this week? I'm trying to remember. I'm already Carolina. Carolina secondary is sneaky at times. It's definitely holes in there, but it's
not good enough to stop Stephon Diggs. Where's your slander this week, Pat?
Well, what did he have last week? Did he finally had a good game?
Over 100, first time since 2023.
It was the first game he actually ran as the one in that game. They finally got him up to that
Revenge
level.
game Sunday night.
Good for him.
That's what we're doing.
I look very forward to his 5 for 27 performance on Sunday Night Football.
Fuck, that's gonna happen.
I would say, hey, look, I don't want to get super excited just off of one game, but if you want to chase Jalen Tolbert as the potential 2 for Dallas going to the Jets defense, which doesn't seem to be good anymore as we've been trashing that part through the show, it still could be a Turpin game, but I would, if you want to take the chance on Tolbert, I'm okay. Outside of there's not much I want to go into this range.
Yeah, I was just
I
trying
have
to
a super deep one real quick. Maybe even more of a dynasty pickup. I did it in one of my deeper dynasty leagues. I was honestly surprised to see him out there. But Jordan Whittington is playing a full-time role in this Rams offense right now. He's not going to have any standalone value. I get it. But, hey, I'm in some of these 14-team leagues. We got 3 wide receivers and a couple flexes. You guys have seen those waiver wires. And Whittington, again, is someone where, if God forbid something happened to Puka Nacua, I don't think Whittington would necessarily get as many targets. I mean, who is going to, obviously. But, he would be playing that role. He's that rugged guy who they trust to block, and they would be trying to get the yak stuff too. Honestly, Adams would probably see a few more targets, but I think Whittington would be that next guy up, and he would be on the cover of all these waiver wire stuff. So it wouldn't be Tutu Atwell as much as his long touchdown against 10 Colts defenders was pretty nice. Super deep leagues, if you want to almost handcuff a wide receiver, as weird as that sounds, Jordan Whittington would be the guy.
feel like I went down that road last year, Jake, and it did not go well.
No, it didn't. Well, that's also because they didn't treat him as a number 3 at times. So, this is kind of one of those situations where he actually is the 3 this time. And, they've done this before, the Rams, even while they're healthy. He's going to have a game. There's going to be a game where it's, oh, my God, Jordan Whittington went 3 for 80 and a touchdown, and everybody's going to go crazy. But, yeah, that's just more so the point of, if you're thinking about the Isaac Tesla's of the world, and Isaiah Bond was there in this conversation last week, Torrey Horton, all these 3s that need an injury, I would put him into that bucket.
Sammy M has the best comment I've seen in a while in the chat. He has referred to Travis Hunter as Zesty Wandale.
Zesty
Can we even
Wandale.
say that? Wandale's making more of his opportunities
I
this
was
year.
gonna say, yeah.
No,
Wandale should be the better one.
the running joke from the show is that what did Jeff call? He called Caleb Williams Zesty DTR, and then Cuss called Justin Fields Zesty Lamar. So yes, I think this works out well for Travis Hunter.
I
He's
will
Zesty
say with
Wandale.
the whole Travis Hunter stuff, and look, I had him ranked as a wide receiver 3. I drafted him too much, just in some of these redraft leagues because too much was literally on any team. But Jake, like, how pompous and just arrogant was everyone that was, really being a truther for this guy? It wasn't that like, oh, Travis Hunter's a good prospect. It was like, you hate upside. You hate winning your fantasy football leagues if you don't draft Travis Hunter. I don't remember another player like that this year, but my goodness gracious, man, have some freaking humility out here, people.
You're stupid if you don't like Travis Hunter.
Right.
Tight end rankings for week number 5. McBride's number 1, clearly. Warren's number 2, clearly. Bowers seems like he's still injured, but he's still number 3. Ferguson,
Yeah.
Juwan Johnson, Laporta, Goddard. That's the list, right? Those 7 for this week?
So 5.
I was going to say, as of today, yes, if we get to Sunday and all of a sudden Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau are back because they're both back and practicing, the Juwanna man time might be done.
I don't know if it would be. I think they just like him running his routes where he runs them. And like, listen,
I hope so, but do you trust Kellen Moore with what he's doing with this offense and the fact of how many times we've done this with the Saints before? And I know, again, it's Kellen Moore and not the previous, but Taysom Hill getting involved. Again, Foster Moreau just peeling off 20 snaps.
Yeah, I mean, he could. Then that would suck. That would still probably make Juwan Johnson tight end 9 instead of 5 at this point.
It'd still be okay. He'd still be in front of Travis Kelce.
So after Goddard, it's Andrews, Ertz, Kelsey, Hunter Henry, Dalton Kincaid, Harold Fannin, Njoku, Hawkinson, Brenton Strange, Ingram, who finally did a little bit on Monday night, ended up with 4 catches. Dalton Schultz, Theo Johnson, Chig is up there. Darren Waller, you have at number 24, Ian. After watching the game on Monday night and now no Tyreek Hill, how high would you bump him up this week?
I get him around that kind of mid-tier tight end 2 part, probably maybe one spot behind like Brenton Strange. So right there next to Evan Ingram as kind of these like qualified pass catchers who we can't feel great about their actual role. But Waller, to his credit, look good. You would expect his, usage to ramp up. We kind of heard going into this one, he was going to be a little bit limited out there. So I can see getting Waller up there. I just don't exactly expect to have this, Jonnu Smith sort of renaissance because even as we saw last night, like Waller's going to be a bit more of this red zone, down the field jump ball option. He's not going to be getting spammed these short 8-out targets like a Devon Achane, like a Jonnu Smith. I actually think Malik Washington is going to see the biggest change in terms of their target volume with no Tyreek. So yeah, certainly a nice upgrade for Darren Waller, but I also wouldn't be surprised if last night was his best game of the season.
So you know who he is, Pat? I'm laughing at myself over here. Darren
Jared
Waller
Cook?
is he's zesty Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews, that guy. If you guys had to name in PPR scoring right now the top 10 tight ends on the season, do you think you could name all 10?
Hell no.
Ian, you want to try?
Not really.
Do you know who number 1 is?
Is it Hunter Henry?
It is not. Hunter Henry is number
2, 3?
2 or 3?
3.
It's
I
probably
should know, 'cause
Ferguson.
You got it. Jake Ferguson by like 10 points over McBride.
He's finally scored his first touchdown, 124 targets. We got there, boys.
Hunter Henry was number 1 in half-point PPR. I was going to say I should know because I tweeted it out yesterday. It's Henry, Ferguson, Kincaid, Kraft, Warren, McBride, Juwan, Pitts, Ertz, Goddard. That's half-point PPR.
Yeah,
Bowers
that's
is 11.
Yeah, that's almost the entire thing. In PPR, Bowers is inside the top 10 because he still has the 19 receptions, but it is bleak out there. And like
It
all
is
of
tough,
our
man. And
Go
honestly, Henry could be as high as like tight end 5 if Taysom and Foster Moreau come back. I am, kind of with you, Pat, where I think Juwan is going to still pretty much have his every down role. Foster Moreau, okay, he's more of a block first guy anyway. He can catch. I'm not saying that, but Taysom Hill is more of a wildcat guy. Like it should still be the Juwan Johnson show. We'll need to find out again what happens. No guarantees, but I'm optimistic there. With Henry, the big thing is the Bills. They've only given up 11 targets to tight ends this year. I think it's a unique defense where they really are just taking away the middle of the field and everything these tight ends do. Again, so if you wanted to bump Hunter Henry up, I get it. But 2 of his 4 games this year, he's had 2 and like 3 targets. That said, Drake May's playing some good football, and Henry was like an inch away from having 2 touchdowns on his 2 targets last week. So I certainly get that. Hopefully Jaden Daniels back for Zach Ertz as well. But you're not kidding. I mean, in my rankings article, which you guys can find for free at fantasylife.com, I mean, I just kind of did a chart, and it was the tight end circle of trust, and I think I got 5 guys in there. I mean, it is so weak right now.
It's devastating news.
Say, if it might sound counterintuitive because I don't want to pay for tight ends, but if you want to buy low,
I thought you were going to say, but I don't want to pay for Ian's article.
Yeah, don't pay for his or mine. I would actually, if you want to take a flyer on somebody who, not surprisingly, was disappointed after what we talked about in week 1, that Harold Fannin is just Isaiah Likely. But now might be the chance, now that everybody's frustrated because they're like, oh, it's going to be the brand new tight end, and he just went out there and just kind of mediocre. They were out there for the same amount of routes, and he was targeted twice as much, and it might be starting to finally skew towards Fannin. Again, if you just want to hope that the Browns start peeling off David Njoku as they move on from him this year.
Yeah, I can see it. Just tight end sucks, man. Let's talk about quarterbacks. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Josh Allen's number 1 in your rankings, Ian. Lamar is at number 2. Should he play? Should he not play? Hurts would be number 2. Jaden Daniels is expected to be back. He's at 4. Mahomes 5. Herbert 6. Drake May, Dak, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Justin Fields, Kyler, Purdy, Baker, Bo Nix, Jackson Dart, Darnold, Geno, Trevi, Matt Stafford. Then you're like Tua, Bryce, and the guys that you don't want to play. So I guess my question would be, could Drake May be even higher on this list? Because I think he should be.
You could get him up there, I would say QB5, where Mahomes is right now, if you really wanted to. Again, I really like what I saw having Worthy back in that Chiefs offense. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, and they were just playing a really banged up, and let's face it, not very good this year, Ravens defense. But no, man, I mean, one of the things I feature in the rankings column was just how good Drake May has been. And I know the level of competition hasn't been great, but Josh Allen hasn't played anyone either, and we don't just hold that against him when he has these good games. So, you know, you're making do with what you're facing. And Drake May this year, guys, 5th in EPA per drop back. He's 9th in PFF pass grade, 7th in yards per attempt. I mean, he's been having these really clean, just awesome games, man. Actually has been cutting down some of the boneheaded mistakes as well. So QB5 in fantasy points per game, you know, just a little bit ahead of Caleb Williams. I certainly could see it. I think we'll find out a lot just how real this is on Sunday night. This would be kind of the first, you know, jumping out on the national scene moment here for Drake May, if he can go and even just keep things competitive against Josh Allen and the Bills. So I can see it. And, you know, he was really someone that I feel like every single fantasy analyst was shouting out as the late round quarterback of 2025. And so far, every fantasy analyst was right for once. How about that?
Yeah, it happens from time to time. But Jake, I find even when he plays poorly, he scores a ton of fantasy points, which is great.
And that's the appeal there. And so, like, I got a lot of hate on another podcast I did when I said Drake May, the real life quarterback, is overrated because people already want to throw him inside the top 10.
Oh, you mean you mean Drake Bortles? That's what he's called on this show.
And that to his play so far, I mean, his play so far to his career is slightly better Daniel Jones as the NFL player. Can he be a top 10 quarterback? Absolutely. Is he already in fantasy? Also, absolutely. I think to your point, you could actually argue he's over Mahomes because Mahomes is interesting so far because if you look at his 3 games, he did relatively, for fantasy purposes, nothing against the Giants because they didn't need him to. The first 2 tough matchups that they lost, he had a great fantasy day because he ran. And then, of course, this past week against the Ravens, he threw a ton because they needed to, and they won that game pretty handily. And now it's Jacksonville. So they didn't need him to do much, and that's kind of where I'm like, where I would lean towards May because I know even like you just said, on a bad day, May is going to have a good fantasy day because he runs. He's better Jackson Dart right now. That's just why I was going to argue that if you want to take a flyer, it would actually push up Jackson Dart a little bit. Not too many spots, but over the risk of starting Brock Purdy, even not being 100% against Arizona, like I'd probably make that call. Kyler Murray at this point,
you were reading my tea leaves that I would just immediately insert Jackson Dart up to, like, if you want to flip a coin between Dart and Justin Fields, go ahead.
They're in the same bucket. Yeah, absolutely.
I think Dart might have more upside because he can, like, sort of throw the ball forward.
I don't know, but also, like,
you can shovel it.
You think Justin Fields is a risk to get hurt running? Holy crap, Jackson Dart is going to die if he is out there. Like, he's been spending much too time with Scadaboo or something because he's trying to stiff people with his throwing arm. Like, he's just diving into, like, he's going to die if he keeps this up.
Are you shocked that even with the rushing touchdown on Monday night, Ian, that Bo Nix has just been kind of bad?
That was the best he's looked. I mean, to be fair, they dropped several big passes out there. But, yeah, I mean, it hasn't been pretty at all. I know he was PFF's lowest graded passer going in to week 4. And, frankly, just having watched him this year, I wasn't really one to overly disagree. So, again, it is a situation where, Harvey and Ingram were supposed to be the guys brought in to spruce up this passing attack. Neither of them has really been featured at all this year. So, I think you kind of look at the weapons in the offense. You're not exactly ranking them, as one of the league's better groups outside of Cortland Sutton. But, yeah, hasn't been pretty. I will say last year, just the wins and losses for the Broncos and then Bo Nix's rushing upside maybe inflated actually how good he was as a passer. A lot of his efficiency stuff were a lot more average to below average versus, again, some of those raw fantasy point totals. So certainly not a great start. That said, he still did have a, relatively good rookie season based on what we usually see at the position. And I do trust Sean Payton to figure it out.
All right. Quick questions here. One-word answers. If Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson are both out, would you start Cooper Rush or Mac Jones in Superflex?
Oh, Superflex? I was like, who the hell's making this decision? Wow. I would go with Mac Jones. Yeah.
Mac? All right. And if you had
you
to
know
play...
what? You know what the thing is, though, Pat? Is I think
is
they
it?
should have to smash and get 100 likes before they're allowed to ask you questions.
No, I would like that. See, I like where you're coming from with this. We got like 200 people watching, and we only got the 45 likes. We could get that up to 100 pretty quickly. People just smash the like button, and you got to be subbed to Mayo Media Network in order to have your question in there as well. Someone says that Stafford is having a career year. I mean, the year that they won the Super Bowl, probably call that his career year, unless they win it again here. But basically, Stafford is... It's funny to say this fantasy-wise. He's kind of like the lesser version of Dak because Dak's defense is so bad. He just inherently has to throw the ball 3,000 times now.
Yeah, but are we also forgetting about the fact when Stafford threw for almost 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns that one year? Like,
yes. That does exclude that fact. Correct.
So, and he did, wait. At the beginning of his career, he had 5,000 yards with the Lions. He had 5,040 plus early on in his career. Anyway, your point about Dak Prescott is valid. They're actually the same bucket. Is just to your point. Is one has a terrible defense where he's going to have to force to be thrown all the time, and the other one has a pretty good defense where he doesn't have to do it every single week.
Ian,
Dak moves around a little bit better. I will say with Stafford, he kind of dropped the ball a little bit in that Eagles game. I know if they just could have made a freaking field goal, it wouldn't have mattered at the end of the day. But I will say, haven't noticed his back hurting, guys. And that's the annoying part here because I remember we were talking in August and it was like Puka Nacua. We all loved him, obviously, but it became just like okay, I'll make the tiebreaker, anti-Puka just because his quarterback, who knows is even going to be out there. Again, it's a shame because Puka's clear-cut wide receiver 1 right now. And again, if we had certainty about Stafford's back, I probably still would have had Jamar Chase number 1 because we didn't know Joe Burrow was hurt. But, Puka had every reason to be wide receiver 2.
It is insane to me that 3 or 4 times a game he is just randomly open with no one around him with 10 yards, like in either direction, like 4 times a game. That happened against the Colts. Like he was making these contested catches, which are great. He even walked off to the locker room in classic Puka fashion, then came back out. Then like 3 throws in a row, just no one is around him.
So Ted Wynn for The Athletic was actually bringing this up, is if you actually, and he broke it down in the film and threw it on Twitter, is that they kind of treat him like a tight end. And that's why, like, if you watch where he lines up and the way they use him with like his blocking, and that's part of it too, is because he's such a good wide receiver pass blocker that it throws defenses off where they're lining him up and what they're asking him to do on any given play. And it's masterful, honestly, by Sean McVay.
He'll run his routes like between the guard and tackle. And it's like, how are you supposed to keep up with this guy through all that traffic? So I'm with you. I mean, last week was just kind of the mix of everything. He was getting the easy yards that you talk about, Pat, and then also, roasting dudes down the sideline. Like, he can do everything as a receiver, should be on any short list of the very best real life, not even talking about fantasy. But the games even before last one, like, I was watching him and I was like, Puka, whatever. He's not doing that much today. And you look at the box score and he's got 8 catches for 90 yards. So again, perfect marriage of a great player, obviously doing his thing with Stafford, one of the all-time best wide receiver whisperers. But yeah, the amount of just easy screens and slants to Puka, it's like, why can't more teams do that for their number 1?
Yeah, it's impossible to get Jamar Chase these touches.
right?
That's a really good point.
Maybe it is.
Yeah, stop throwing Jamar Chase up against the sideline for 80% of his plays.
Yeah, maybe they just don't want him to get his head taken off. But yeah, a slant maybe get him into some open space. We can basically just use him how the Steelers use DK. Like, it's not like they're using him down the field. They can't, because apparently Aaron Rodgers just refuses to throw the ball more than 20 yards in the air anymore. But just work him on some of these slants. Let him do. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' arm still looks pretty good. He fires it, maybe too hard sometimes.
Right after he rips the smelling salts, that was pretty sweet.
Defenses. If anyone has questions right now at any position, dump those into the chat. We'll get to those afterwards.
No, Ian's got extra information for that, Pat.
Oh,
Just
I was
so
going to
you know.
say, I don't know if you guys
you
can
couldn't hear us at the
screen
beginning
share.
of the show.
I tweeted out some strength of schedule charts shortly before the show, guys. Basically looking weeks 5 through 9. So
Cleveland,
the top,
number 1.
They're number 4.
They should be
looking
number
very,
1.
very good. Well, I mean, it's not my call. Like, if you want to make them number 1, that's fine. Based on their strength of schedule, they are ranked 4. The two obvious pickups, though, I do think if you want to ride with the Browns number 1, absolutely go ahead. They are incredible in real life. But as we saw last week, Flacco or one of these rookies, like, they can just be backed up, and all of a sudden the other offense has the ball at their 20-yard line, 3 drives per game. So the only other group I would take, ideally, you just start Cleveland this week against Carson Wentz. But the Patriots, guys, we can get to week 14 basically with this group. This week sucks, okay? They're facing the Bills. I want nothing to do with that. I get it. But if there ever was a time to hold on to 2, just briefly, I do think it is now. After this week, the Patriots get the Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons, Buccaneers, Jets, Bengals, and Giants until their week 14 bye. I mean, that's amazing.
Wow. They have good special teams as well. Like, they will try to contribute for you there. It's obviously they're
Marcus
not going to return
Jones.
it. Yeah, they're not going to have a kick return every week, but they'll have one every second week, as it turns out.
100%.
I had my pickups this week of under 25% owned in Yahoo leagues. I do like Cleveland for like the next 3-4 weeks because they just have super easy schedule going through until even they get to the Ravens. Like, who knows? They actually played pretty well against the Ravens the last time around. But I had Indy at number 1 as the best pickup this week at home against the Raiders, who love interceptions. Addicted to it, like that other guy, like Bucky Irving's addicted to MRIs. Then you got Cleveland in London against Minnesota, then the Giants at New Orleans. Those would be the 3 that I would go look for that are widely available. I actually made the Cleveland pickup last week and benched them against Detroit just so I would have this 4-week run with them.
The grossest one, who I really wouldn't recommend over those, I think you named the good ones, Pat. Colts also 5th best strength of schedule here moving forward. The Dolphins started to get that pass rush going last night. Their secondary is such a joke. I get it. You named the ones I want, but they do face the Panthers this week. Come on, it's Bryce Young. You don't want them against the Chargers, and they get the Browns. So at least 2 of these next 3 weeks, because they have dogs on the line of scrimmage. Honestly, that was one of the more confusing things for me during the first month of the year, was the fact Miami was blitzing and they couldn't get pressure. Finally did start to see it from some of those guys. So that would be the sickest I would go. But again, Patriots, Browns, and I think you're spot on with the Colts being the top 3.
Andre Mack asked how much he would bid on Woody Marks. We did that at 6:15 during this show. If you just want to rewind to that time code,
All of it.
All of it, yes.
I would say a defense getting ridiculous pressure on everybody, and what they just did, they actually scored positive points when nobody wanted to roster them against the Ravens. The Chiefs get Jacksonville. I know they get Detroit after that, but also the Raiders, the Commanders, and then they're in Buffalo before their bye. So you can get 3 out of 4 games in there by the Chiefs.
Would you play Arizona or Seattle's defense this week? I think I'd play
Seattle.
Arizona's.
Arizona still doesn't have their secondary back, which is why I would go with Seattle. At least they get a piece or 2 back.
We're facing Cam Ward.
There you go. That's why it's Arizona for me.
Okay.
And
It's
listen,
definitely better in real life. I mean, having Witherspoon back there is nice, but I still would lean Arizona.
yeah, and again, it doesn't really matter how good of a real life defense you are for fantasy. I've always talked about this. It's just pressure and how many pass attempts you're going to face. That's what you want to try to mine out.
Baker can have a great day and still throw interceptions.
He can, but I have a bit more faith that Arizona can maybe get out to a lead here and just force. If Cam Ward has to drop back and pass even 35 times in this game, that is big news for the opposing defense.
Okay.
I think they'd be close, and I agree that Seattle's probably the better real life defense. Anthony says that Jacksonville has been solid. They have been, but they have been living with the luckiest turnovers alive. And maybe that's just, it's their year. There's one team every single year. Pittsburgh is weirdly like this too, that they're just going to generate way more turnovers than they have any realistic expectation of actually doing. It just kind of happens. They're not really the types of teams that I love to ride with there, though.
So that's the Eagles from a few years ago, back before they had a good defense, when they were actually one of the worst defenses, but they just turnovers. And if you look at it too, I pulled it up. I thought this was right. They have 2 interceptions in every single game so far, that being the Jaguars. But look, Carolina, Cincinnati with Joe Burrow's situation, and then Houston and San Francisco. Like, I don't know if I would bank too much on those interceptions continuing. They've just been very opportunistic, as you say.
Yeah, and maybe that doesn't. I don't think that necessarily translates that well to playing Mahomes on Monday Night Football. RJ asked about the Rams D with all the injuries to San Francisco. Ian, I would like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, Jared Verse and company, they really have built a strong group. And, yeah, just based on those injuries, Rams definitely up there.
Is the Packers droppable? That's almost a sentence, but sure.
No, don't do it. They have the best schedule after this bye week. I mean, it really, let me kind of pull up the actual opponents. I know it wasn't good against the Cowboys and everything.
It was actively bad against the Cowboys.
No. So,
they got the Bengals, the
Cardinals,
Cardinals, the Steelers, and the Panthers coming up. That's hot.
I know, and you're not wrong, but I think this kind of goes back to Pat's point, is they're actually a bottom 10 fantasy defense. They're really good real life, but they're doing nothing fantasy-wise.
Only 2 turnovers on the year. That is surprising.
It is, and listen, maybe they can get the pressure back a little bit and start forcing those turnovers, but a lot of it might have to do with their offense as well, that they're just, I mean, obviously they moved it against Dallas. Everyone moved everything against Dallas on both sides of the ball, but maybe we were talking about this a little bit like on the Sunday Night Live show, that some of the teams that we may have and units that we overrated from just, everyone being excited to watch week 1, everything happens in front of us. Maybe the Packers defense just isn't as good as we thought just because they shut down Detroit in week 1.
That's always possible. Like, you can't base the entire defense off one matchup. Yeah.
But that
is kind of that way, and that's happening in college football too, Pat, because like LSU had that marquee win over Clemson in week 1, and it was like, actually, no, both those teams weren't very good.
Like for example, we thought that Baltimore's offense, I mean, historically, we know that Baltimore's offense is really good, but it really hasn't been outside of me. I know they put up 41 against the Browns. That was a really weird game, but they were moving the ball at will against the Bills in week 1. We're like, oh man, this offense. And it really hasn't been all that good. Turns out it's the Bills defense that just might suck.
Start your running backs against the Bills.
You just
Start Ed Oliver and Matt Milano out these last few weeks, which definitely hasn't helped.
No, and when are they coming back? It seems like the Bills have now been afforded the luxury of, hey, if you're hurt, just like chill for a while till you get 100%.
That was rough last week too, man. Like, they were lucky the Saints didn't honestly take the lead at some point. Olave threw that dumbass pick, on the Philly special before halftime. And then Brandon Cooks, like, they called it a touchdown originally in the 4th quarter, but Rattler kind of skipped it in there. So really are playing with fire with the Bills. I actually used them for my survivor last week, and I was sweating it, fellas.
I got bumped in half. I'm down to 3 survivor teams now. Jake, Green Bay screwed me on a tie.
Ooh. I was watching that one. What was the other big one that got knocked out this week?
Chargers.
Oh, the Chargers.
Yeah. Would you trade Ted McMillan to get Ladd McConkey? I would not.
No.
That's a sad scene.
Which is
Tedder looks so good. If we could get Andy Dalton under center, it'd be like Deontay Johnson last year, who actually started the ball out as soon as they made the switch.
No, this is what we want, Ian. We want Andy Dalton under center for like 2 weeks so Bryce Young can come back and be the good Bryce Young again.
Dalton, go back under center, get another car crash, and then Bryce will be ready again.
I believe he has a professional driver now that gets him everywhere. We got to keep that backup healthy in Carolina. You did start to see Tet staring down Bryce Young like, what the fuck is going on, man?
Some of these throws, man. I mean, last week was horrific, but I was even just going back and watching the week before that 30-0 win over the Falcons. It's maybe the worst 30-0 win in the history of the NFL. Like, Bryce just skipping the ball in. He has dudes wide open. He's not seeing. Again, just a situation where even last year in the second half of the season, man, like his numbers by and large, he had a fun PFF big time throw rate, and the highlights were cool. I get it, but he literally just went from being like the single worst quarterback in the NFL to being kind of average to below average in a lot of these different metrics. So again, hasn't had a ton of help. Hopefully Jalen Coker, shout out Cokeheads, gets back out there soon. Again, like, why did Carolina feel the need to trade Adam Thielen? It's like the one player that Bryce has shown any level of chemistry with. And they're like, oh yeah, Minnesota, here you go.
All right, I got a terrible question from the chat for you. Should I trust Bo Nix against Philly? Feeling nervous. That's a question with a lot of context for us. Thank you.
Yeah, like, for who?
For no one. Just an empty quarterback slot or Bo Nix, your choice.
I take the 0.
Yeah. Go back to the previous one, Pat. For real life, your team, would you take Spencer Rattler or Bryce Young as of today?
Ooh.
That hesitation? That's all we need to say.
I don't believe in either of them, so I would take Spencer Rattler because there's no commitment to keep Spencer Rattler. I can move on from Spencer Rattler and not the number one pick much easier.
Yeah. Oh, that's certainly fair. I still love how they both celebrated their birthday, that being Rattler and Shook on Sunday, and yet he's the one that's a year younger in the veteran.
All right, here we go. Rest of the season, last question, defense. Where would you rank Ian, you have the numbers in front of you, so we can direct this towards you. Colts, Cardinals, Browns, and Chargers defense rest of the season. I like the Browns the best of that bunch, then the Colts.
Yeah, Chargers are very good as well. Jesse Minter is never going to make it really easy on anyone. I would lean Browns, though, I think, overall. So I don't have, again, the rest of the season schedules. The Cardinals one does start to die off, and they haven't really shown me anything to believe, particularly with some of those secondary injuries, that they're going to be, big-time long-term. So I would say Browns, Colts, Chargers might need to look. What's up?
I don't know. The Chargers, it's a schedule, especially with how easy they get to the quarterback. Washington, Miami, Indianapolis, Minnesota, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, bye, Vegas, and then finally Philly. That is, they might have 40 sacks by the time they get to Philly.
I was thinking the same thing with the Browns. Like, the Browns finish with the Ravens November 16th. That's their only difficult game between now and then against a good offense. They go Vikings, Steelers, Dolphins, Pats, Jets, then the Ravens. Then they get Raiders, Niners, Titans, Bears, Bills. Like that Bears-Bills, the very end of the season, the first two rounds of the fantasy playoffs do kind of suck. Then they get the Steelers, which I think is a good matchup in week number 17. But until you get to the Bears in the first week of the fantasy playoffs, you can kind of ride the Browns the entire season.
And if you do look at some of the pressure numbers this year, the Colts are only 26th. Meanwhile, let's see, the Chargers are a little bit better at 18th. Hopefully, Khalil Mack comes back at some point. Browns are up there at 7th, though, again. So I would say Browns number one based on Jake's schedule, Chargers two.
What receivers would you target trying to give away Pacheco, or would you dangle Harvey after his big game? I don't think anyone wants those people. Like, what are you getting in return for those guys?
They would want Harvey more than Pacheco. I mean,
Sure.
I already saw this in my waiver column. Somebody in the comments was like, Harvey's coming for the job. Like, no, he's not. Ian brought it up earlier. We already had 100 yards for J.K. Dobbins. He's coming for a job, which is the timeshare piece, and that's what he's going to be. I actually think you might be able to trick somebody in the Pacheco situation because he got the touchdown on that one.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I know, but you're like, we're just talking about average leagues out there. You're not going to be able to get a lot of names, but you throw out Pacheco for Ladd right now, you might be able to trick that manager into that just because of how bad it's been, and they need running back help. Otherwise, you're probably dipping lower. You're probably trying to take a flyer on a Calvin Ridley that he does something and bounces back, or I mean, you're going to have to go pretty deep to get anything back for Pacheco.
Yeah, like it would be like Jordan Addison for Pacheco, Ian.
I would take Addison.
Yeah, but that's probably like the level of player that you're looking at, a guy who could be good but hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I will say if you just Google kind of Yahoo trade market, you can go ahead and look up these guys and see actual trades that have got done. There's usually a couple of them that do seem absolutely ridiculous. So if you did want to try to, rip off one of your league mates, go ahead and be like, oh yeah, look, no, this was already done today. You can check it out on Yahoo.
All right, so let's see. Let me put that in right now. Trades for Isaiah Pacheco. It's funny, the first one is Pacheco for Ladd McConkey, Jake. Straight up.
There you go.
Pacheco,
you can do that all day long.
Pacheco for T. Higgins, straight up. Pacheco for Bill Krosky Merritt, straight up. Pacheco for Brian Thomas, straight up. I guess there's morons out there. So
because we talked about it earlier with Alvin Kamara. The actual more likely, not that it's definitely going to happen, the more likely running back to get traded is Breece Hall because he's on his rookie contract expiring. And I think that might have changed a little bit with Braylon Allen happening. But if they traded Breece Hall, they're out of contention. You tell me the Chiefs shouldn't be the first one on that phone line to put that in the backfield?
Yeah, that would be nice. But I listened to this one. Pacheco and A.O. Manor for Kyron Williams. Man, that's a bad trade. These trades are horrible. Like this is
they actually happen. It's amazing.
Like, this is more the level where I thought you would get a Pacheco for Diggs, Pacheco for Judy, Pacheco for Ridley. Like that makes more sense to me. I probably would, as much as I hate Diggs, I'd probably rather have Diggs than Pacheco. But that's the level that I think that normal people would try to trade for.
Agreed. You just called it normal. You're so rude, Pat.
Well, listen, there's two guys in my league that everyone tries to actively trade with because they're fucking morons. Like
Stop giving me more work.
Listen, it's two. It's two. I wrote down both codes. Sorry.
No, there's 3. Ian
Well,
dropped one he very softly voice dropped in one earlier.
Well, I didn't hear that one, okay? I got mine that I wrote down for you, for your version of the pod. Tell everyone where they can find your version of the podcast.
Yeah, all in speed run, which I post this one with the long form every single week so you can listen to both and get the best of all worlds, because I do the super short under 15 minutes and then we have the long form so you can get more of the context that we always ask them for.
And at theathletic.com, you can get Jake's waiver ranking right now. His rankings come out this evening. You can subscribe to that down in the description of this video and podcast. Ditto for Ian. Ian, thank you for always being the one to offer up the ranks. You're the one who has to take the heat, but you have them out early. They're on Fantasy Life, and you can get that in the description. What else do you have coming out this week?
Sure are. The Fantasy Life Show, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Also, usually recording until about 2 a.m. on Sunday nights with my guy, Dwayne McFarland, reviewing all the breakdowns. So check those out. Also this week, probably Wednesday afternoon at the latest Thursday morning, or just check out my Twitter. I am making my 10 Things article very much so about the strength of schedule coming up here. So a lot of bye weeks, a lot of opportunities for some buy lows, sell highs, things of that nature. So check it out, but always a good time hanging with the boys.
Yeah, I want to encourage everyone to sub and smash the like before they get out of here. My rankings come out on 4for4.com, or if you sub to the Mayo Media newsletter, completely free. They will just get sent to your inbox along with the full injury report and all of the player news, updates, and stat trends that will come out on Wednesday afternoon. So please go do that now. You can find all of that information down in the description. All right. Thank you all for tuning in live. We're here every single Tuesday at 10:45 a.m. Eastern time to go over the rankings and answer your questions. All right. I'll see you next time.